So your boy's been doing a press tour. I know you haven't been feeling really good about this. He's not your favorite person at all. Andrew Schultz was just recently on Shannon Sharp's podcast. He's been on Breakfast Club, WWE. Like I said, he's promoting his Netflix special. And I think, do people do that now where they promote the special after it comes out? Like, is that a normal thing regarding comedy?
Yeah, not for comedy specifically. I don't know.
Because I know generally it used to be you promoted the movie before it came out or whatever the product was before. But I've seen him do it afterwards a few different times. I know it's probably more to do with the fact that he's so more hands-on probably with his product. So you can't really promote it while you're doing all the other stuff because you got to make, decisions on the cuts and things like that. But I just think that's an interesting way to do it. But in light of his criticism with Kendrick Lamar and Shits and Gigs podcast, do you think it's kind of weird that black media, and we can exclude Breakfast Club because Charlamagne's his man. Do you think it's weird to see some elements of black media kind of bring him into the fold like that? Especially Shannon.
I think Shannon is setting himself up to just be messy. So this fits within like the prototype that he's trying to do for his show, because Schultz has had a couple viral moments as of late. Yeah, he just had Amber Rose on there. So I feel like this falls within that like wheelhouse. It's not too crazy to me. What other black media outlets has he done? Charlamagne, like, he's a donkey. So like, of course, Andrew went on Charlamagne's platform, and I'm calling that Charlamagne's platform because it's his platform.
I mean, like I said, they do a show together, so that's not out of the wheelhouse for them to do anything together. I just thought it was interesting because I watched the interview. So when I was watching the interview, it felt like Schultz gives a really disingenuous interview in a way, because, and I don't know, maybe it's because he's explaining jokes and that's where it makes it feel like this shouldn't be happening.
You shouldn't explain jokes.
It feels like, because it feels like it's just so disingenuous when a lot of the early conversations they were having. Because what he'll do is Schultz loves to do this thing where he takes two concepts that are void of each other and try to compare them in a way. Like so
you did with Doechii.
No, I was actually very concise with my criticism. But he'll do something like, so the conversation was about offending people with your jokes. And he tried to compare that to Shannon having a criticism of somebody's play on the field. And I think it's very clear that those two things are not the same. Because one person, you're taking a thought about a bias or stereotype about their people that may be offensive to them or may hold their people back because it's a general consensus about them. And you're playing into that, and the other person is just literally watching a game and being critical of the sport. Like, I'm not saying like you couldn't make a play because you're white. I'm saying you just couldn't make the play. There's a difference between that. And to try to compare that, to try to find common ground, I get what he's trying to do because it ended up working. Like, Shannon fell hook, line, and sinker to what Schultz was trying to do.
Shannon is always going to fall because he was a football player, not too smart.
But, I mean, it's not his fault because Andrew's shrewd. The way that he operates, the way that he'll try to find common ground with you. Because that's what I'm saying. Like, even though I feel like it's a disingenuous comparison, it's not necessarily disingenuous when you're trying to find a connection with the person across from you. And when you do that, it becomes now Schultz was interviewing Shannon. He's trying to talk about him and where he came from and how he felt with people where we're supposed to be talking about you, Andrew. We're supposed to be asking questions about you. And you take over the interview. And he does that a lot. He does that on his show, of course, because that's what he's supposed to do. But when you see him going like Nelk Boys, he tries to do it with Joe Rogan where he's trying to show like, I'm in control of the room. And I do that by breaking you down in a way that the audience can see after multiple playbacks. But in the real time, it probably doesn't feel like that.
I didn't really listen to this interview, but I caught a little bit of it in the beginning. And he did that in the beginning of the interview. Like Shannon is introducing him. And then Schultz like changes the topic, talking about the speech that Shannon gave and talking about like how much that choked him up and blah, blah, blah. And he it was so emotional to watch Shannon do that. And Shannon seems so full in his life. And I was like, he was just introducing you. Like, it's been less than 2 minutes into the interview.
Yeah, he does that. Oh, you got to be full to give other stuff. Like, that's what I'm saying. That shit is so cheesy. And it's just a way for like rich people to feel like.
It gives me that same vibe that like whenever Kevin tries to talk to people.
Kevin Hart?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's
the same vibe.
That's good. I like that. That's because Kevin Hart was just on Breakfast Club doing the same thing.
Mm-hmm. Whenever Kevin tries to give a motivational speech, like I don't want to hear a motivational word come out of Kevin's mouth ever again. It seems very disingenuous, calculated.
Hollow.
And yeah, just like you don't actually give a fuck. You just trying to have like another whatchamacallit brunch moment. Rock Nation brunch moment. Like, it's okay. We don't need to hear from you.
It feels like too, a lot of times from when I watch a lot of Andrew's content and it's somebody that he likes or respects, he tries to turn the conversation, even on his own channel, into like a circle jerk. Where it just becomes like me a complimenting fest. Mm-hmm. Where we're talking about what I respect about you. And then they like he enjoys that amongst the people he sees as the elites. Mm-hmm. And then it doesn't get anywhere because even this, he wasn't just on black media. Like I said, he did Joe Rogan, he did Megyn Kelly. And just some of the stuff I feel like he advocates for in the long run is very like stupid, problematic shit. Like he was like supporting Trump talking about us annexing like Greenland and Canada. Like he felt like that was reinvigorating America. And that's getting people in a way that they feel pumped and good to be an American. I'm like, how do you feel good about being American when your president is talking about annexing a sovereign nation? Like that doesn't even make sense to me.
No, it doesn't.
How's that a galvanizing force? Like even with the whole, he was playing into the Gulf of America thing and he really means this shit. Like when he did the Trump interview, like he means this shit where he feels as though this is a galvanizing force to be an American and that we should be getting behind. And to me, it just feels like you just want your taxes lowered. Like that's just.
What the weird thing about that, and I know that's not the point you're trying to make, but the weird thing about that to me is the people who are not like exactly pumped about being an American, Trump isn't gonna do it for them. Like if you're not already like, whoa, America, like Trump is not gonna be the person who's gonna make you proud to be an American. If anything, it's gonna do the complete opposite. The people who are already proud of being American, like this hasn't changed anything for them.
And it's so like, and I get the base that hears that is not going to be as conscious as we are when we listen to that. But you're a 40-year-old man advocating for what essentially would be warmongering. Mm-hmm. And those are going to be 22-year-old men, 30-year-old men who are going to die in that process that you will not have to feel.
Not at all.
And then you act like that's something to get behind. Like, granted, I know you can hide behind he said he's going to do it economically and all that other stuff, but he's also heavily implied military force that potentially being used. It's just not. It's not smart. It's just not smart. I don't think that people with this kind of pushing to the right, it feels so forced and fake. Like beforehand, when we had Bush and stuff, people just supported the general concept of being, this is your civic duty. And to see where we okay with like the outright like ass spreading of celebrity. No, it's insane. Like the way that we're so comfortable with celebrities and people like spreading their ass for even politicians at this point now. It's insane. Like that's, to me, I didn't grow up like that. Like if somebody supported either party publicly like that, you look like a doofus. And to see that people are so easily doing it now, and it's not even something that they can commonly get behind. Like, who cares if we own Greenland? But I can see a lot of people caring if women have the right to have an abortion. Like, that makes sense to me. So,
yeah, because they're a very, what you would call like liberal country in general. Like, it's what I'm saying over there is happy as shit.
No, I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is, my point is, when they complain about the points of the left will be like, hey, we want women to have safe and sometimes free and effective abortions. And it's like the right will be like, no, well, let's steal Greenland. Like, why should we get behind still in a country but not get behind making sure half of our citizens have access to a medical, like proper medical care in regards to the reproductive organs. It's I get it. I can see a little gas from it, but it just bothers me so much how people can get behind this instead of just wanting to do the work and being critical of the details. Because again, I'm not saying Democrats or people on the left like are perfect. And again, I'm not saying
nobody's.
But what I'm saying is makes sense to certain things to get behind, and I just don't see how these guys can justify themselves to get on Trump's side like this in that manner.
I think you're probably analyzing it from like a point of like being able to critically think.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I don't think they think outside of their tax bracket.
No. So I don't. It's nothing other than like a very narrow viewpoint, and what fits in it, and what doesn't, and that's it.
Yeah, I just miss back when our comedians and stuff, they just shitted on everybody, and they didn't feel like they had to pick a side. They didn't have to dance for a particular candidate and shit like that.
Because Schultz should be shitting all over Trump. He's a very easily shittable character. Like, he's hilarious.
Mm-hmm. But
for a comedian.
But when you sold yourself to him,
you can't criticize him. You can't make jokes about him. You can't poke fun of him.
Or if you do, you have to make it very clear that I'm playing, and then if he gets offended, you're going to apologize and all that. And I promise you, if he makes a joke about Trump and Trump feels some kind of way, we'll see him tuck his tail like he tells everybody else does for the people they care about.
He's been bent over already, so
yeah, they put the lube on him.
Maybe not.
They greased him up something nice,
like they did Drewski, apparently, allegedly.
Hitting a nigga up with the Drewski is sick.